Welcome back to the Hidden Hues of Motherhood. I'm your host, Lulu Guerrero. Today's episode is filled with so much love and gratitude. After trying a couple of schools that just weren't a good fit for our family, more on that in another episode, but we were lucky enough to find Diamond Hill Montessori School. And from the moment we stepped through their doors, everything began to feel lighter, calmer, and more aligned. It wasn't just a school. It was a place where my daughter could be herself, where she could explore, feel safe, and truly thrive. Today, I have the absolute honor of speaking with Kristina Brusco and Auna Conrad, the brilliant directors of Diamond Hill Montessori School. These women are not just educators. They are guides, nurturers, and visionaries who pour their heart into everything they do. And, no surprise, they're also wonderful mothers. Before we dive in, I want to take the time to give out a special shout out to every single teacher and staff member and director of the Diamond Hill Montessori School. Your love, patience, and dedication is felt in every single corner of that school. You make learning a joyful, magical experience for these kids, and we are so grateful for each of you. To Miss Bajpai, Miss Hema, Miss McKean, Miss Bailey, Miss Bonina, Miss Trapicio, Miss Rodriguez, Miss Talak, Miss Roman, and Miss Drivas. We will also be honoring the incredible legacy of Dr. Maria Montessori, one of the first female physicians in Italy, whose revolutionary vision continues to light the way for children all over the world. If you've ever been curious about the Montessori method, what makes it so unique, or maybe why it might be the right fit for your family, this conversation is a beautiful place to start. So let's get into it. Kristina, Auna, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to hear your background and to talk about Montessori method. Auna, what exactly is the Montessori method and how does it make it different from traditional schooling?
In Montessori learning, so everything's in a 3-year cycle. There's 2 years of preschool and 1 year of kindergarten. In lower elementary, it's pretty much first through third, and in upper elementary, it's fourth through sixth. Mm-hmm. So the way that they break it down is the first year, you're an explorer. The second year, you're an experimenter. In the third year, you're an expert. And that really does go with kind of all facets of life. Maybe not even year 1, year 2, year 3, but if you think of it as phases, when you're a mother, first you're an explorer, then you're an experimenter, then you're an expert. When you start a new career, first you're an explorer, then you're an experimenter, then you're an expert. And even when you're an expert, your thoughts and visions change. So what I always like to make sure that parents understand, there's always 2 things that I leave a tour with. And one is independence. It's really teaching your child that they're so capable and they really can do things by themselves, especially coming into, we have a toddler room that starts at 2 years old. You're doing everything for them at that point. You're changing their diapers, you're cutting up their food, you're reaching things that are down. You're doing things for them without even them having to ask you to do them for them, because you're their parents and you know exactly what they need and what they want. Right. Montessori really shows you that you can take this step back and you can just watch what they do and how they interact with their world. And it's amazing how much they're able to do by themselves. So you give them kind of these little steps to achieve a goal. Maybe they don't know how to zip their jacket yet, but we'll start with this part and then we'll move on. Maybe they don't know how to, they're not sitting in the chair properly. There's all these little steps that they go to and that brings them into all the little steps they need to sit down, to read, to write, to, add, subtract. It really does all start very from the beginning with the foundations. And then the second part is that individualized education plan. Every child learns differently. Every child responds differently to things in their environment. So there's a very sensorial approach to learning in the Montessori classroom. The Maria Montessori, who is the founder of this philosophy, she was a doctor originally.
Wow.
She was actually the first female doctor in Italy. They thought that her name was Mario, and they accepted her into med school. And then when she showed up, they were like, "Oh, you're not,
Oh,
Mario."
wow.
They wouldn't let her practice with the other male doctors. She had to go at night and do things like it's an amazing, she has such an amazing story. She really is a phenomenal woman and practice, but she came to education with this observation mindset, with this idea that you just have to watch and you learn from what you see.
And that's where child-led learning comes. That's amazing.
She noticed that even these individuals that did not have the same pathways and neural connections that we did, that, neurotypical learners have, we're still trying to find something to interact with their environment. They would literally interact with like the crumbs on the table or like an ant coming across the floor. And she's like, it just, after all that observation said, they need to be stimulated, need to, have things that are going to be interesting to them, that are going to appeal to them, that's going to help them learn.
And it's going to help them regulate themselves.
Exactly. Because you can't have any of that until the foundation is set.
Exactly. And that's the problem we were having with Estella. She was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder at school. She was having a very hard time, regulating herself with the sensory. She was putting things in her mouth. She was, wanting to, kind of pinch herself. It's all these things that the school that she was at the time didn't know how to regulate her, and they wanted her evaluated and this and that. We had an occupational therapist who diagnosed her with this and said, you need to take her to a school that is going to support this, that is going to mold the way that they teach Estella and help her know how to regulate herself in this environment, which is a classroom environment. She needs to be able to learn how to regulate herself so that when she goes to public school or goes to another school, she doesn't need the teachers to, consult the OT or, do any of like the stuff that the OT was doing. She needed to learn how to do that herself. And I said, how do you teach the 3-year-old how to regulate herself when it comes to sensory processing disorder? A Montessori school is going to have the flexibility to have this unique way of molding the education and the environment for Estella. They're going to be okay with, her sitting on one of those, pillows so that she can learn how to sit without moving around. They will understand that the reason she was putting things in her mouth was to feel. And that's what the learning for the Montessori method is. It's a lot of sensory. Absolutely. And she was able to learn how to regulate herself and how to use that heightened sensory to learn. So that was what was mind-blowing to me, that the method in and of itself was so friendly towards this sensory, high sensory. And you don't have to have sensory processing disorder. All kids have high sensory,
Yes,
They
exactly.
want to clap, they want to touch things, they want to put things in their mouth, and it starts from a very young age.
They want to move. They want to move around.
They want to move.
Yeah.
It's all this energy amped up in their body, and they don't know what to do with it. And the only way to release that is through sensory. So teaching kids at a very young age to know how to to regulate themselves and do that in a healthy way without putting things in their mouth, without, going haywire and running around and, rolling on the floor. That was what Estella was doing. She was, wanting to lay on the floor because she liked the way that the floor felt on her skin. So now she is in such a safe place where she knows how to regulate herself. She can be in any environment and she knows how to control that. So I want to thank the Montessori method in your school for teaching Estella that it's okay for her to have high sensory. She didn't have to change or dim her light, her singing and her, vibrant personality that she has is part of who she is. And the not being able to regulate herself, that was something that just needed to be taught, not dimmed.
Absolutely.
And the light dimming is such a huge thing that I want to talk about when it comes to schools for kids, because I saw that. I saw Estella's light being dimmed because she was told that she had to be this cookie cutter, version of a child, and no kid is exactly alike, and you can't expect these kids to learn the same, to speak the same, to read the same, to do anything the same. So to have a school and a method and a program that allows kids to be who they are, learn at their pace, learn how they want to learn, is just so incredible. It's so amazing.
It really is a gift to them that, you as parents are giving your children. We really do. In a society itself really has such high expectations of children without giving them tools to get to those expectations. Mm-hmm. We don't sit all the time. When we need to get up and move around, we just do it. Right. We don't have to ask permission.
Yeah.
It's there's so much respect for the child in a Montessori classroom, even at this early age. Kristina actually shared with me, there was a meme, it's part of a podcast, something, and it was talking about the difference between traditional and a Montessori school.
Just thinking about that.
Yeah, the one that he was like a middle school teacher. Yes. And he was saying, he was a middle school teacher, but the whole school was a broad spectrum of ages. And there was a Montessori early childhood primary classroom, so preschool and kindergarten, in that same school. Oh, wow. And he would go in there and, these 4 or 5-year-olds are just going to the bathroom when they want. And if they want a snack, they just put their name tag and go have a snack. And everybody's just milling about, focusing and concentrating and not bothering each other. I think that's another thing that when parents come in for tours, they're like, it's so quiet.
Yes.
They're all busy because they're doing what calls to them, and they're being guided by the teachers, following them. He's like, but my middle schoolers have to raise their hand to go to the bathroom, and they interrupt me when I'm talking. And, then there's these other little kids that are putting hands on shoulders and waiting. And there's this, 6-7 year age gap. And why are these children able to regulate themselves?
Yeah.
And here's my middle schoolers that I'm talking to no one. I'm, speaking out in the air. So it's something that we really pride ourselves on, being an authentic Montessori school mm-hmm. that really does respect children and follow their path and their purpose.
Freedom with limits. Mm-hmm. That was the first thing I saw on your website before enrolling Estella. And I loved that, because that is the way that we parent here at home. We give our kids the freedom to independently do what they want. If they want to color, they can color. If they want to, lay in bed and read a book, they can do that, but with limits. Talk mm-hmm. a little bit more about freedom with limits in the Montessori method and how you guys incorporate that in the classrooms with the kids.
Well, for starters, the children are able to choose their work, which is very much what Auna was saying before, that when you get to choose what calls to you, then they have a whole new appreciation of their work because it's not being assigned to them. It's not, here's your paperwork, go sit down and let's take care of this worksheet.
There's no pressure.
There's no pressure. And another thing, in our classroom, there's one of everything. So we have some popular things also that works on the shelves that children need to learn to wait for. So it's still freedom to do the work, but now you need to wait for it and you have to go find something to do. So there's a lot of freedom when it comes to having to wait their turn as well. Freedom to, oh, you're hungry, snack's not available, or you've had a snack, you can just go into the kitchen and make yourself some food in there, whether it's chopping an apple or peeling a clementine. This week, as we explore South America, our children will be making guacamole in the classroom.
Oh my gosh, that's
so they're
cool.
going to have the freedom of cooking something for themselves.
So when I talk to parents about Estella learning how to cut apples, how to cook, how to clean, she now makes her bed every single morning. I've never told her to do it. I've never taught her how to do it, but this is just like a need that comes. Every time I tell other parents who are not in the Montessori school about what Estella learns at school, it sometimes comes off as off-putting to them. But then I explain, these are everyday things that they're going to have to learn how to do at some point in their lives. And the fact that the school is not only showing them to do this by choice and making them feel like it's not a chore, but it's something they accomplished that day. And then you add the academics to it. Because Estella came home one day and she was like, Mommy, I want to cut an apple. And I said, all right, let's go get your Montessori cutting utensils. And she stood on her stool and she was cutting. She goes, Mommy, you know what? If I cut this apple in half, which I am going to, I'm going to have 2 halves. And I'm like, that's amazing. Yes, that's right. And she's like, I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. And one of these pieces is 1/4 of a piece. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And she's like, if these were quarters, I have 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, that would make $1. My apple would make and she just kept going and going and going. And I'm like, wow, how do you know this? And she goes, I learned it. I learned it at school. Everybody knows this. So for her, doing this math, because this is what it is.
Big works.
Math.
They are big works. They're very big, important works.
It came so naturally to her. It didn't feel like a chore. It felt fun to her, and she felt proud of herself that she knew. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So it's not just about teaching them to be independent, having them learn how to do these chores, but it's incorporating education into all of these everyday things that we as adults, I'm not noticing if I'm cutting an apple. We take for granted. So it's opened up a whole entire world for me, seeing how she sees the world now through her eyes. It's so incredible. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys incorporate math, science, all of these other classroom studies into your everyday Montessori method?
Sure. Well, for starters, even in our sensorial area, everything in sensorial is based on the base 10 concept of math.
Yes.
So all of the Tower of right, the brown stairs, all these things. I'm using these Montessori words that maybe not everybody listening will know of.
Yeah.
So a lot of our works in the sensorial area, they're all based on a base 10, which very much translates into our math. And language for that matter, because we're teaching the language with the sensorial. Show me the largest, which one is the smallest. So you're teaching children the vocabulary that's going to translate into the language next. We do a lot of science projects together also. We just recently did a big bang presentation where the teachers will go through with the whole classroom. We'll do it together. And then once the works come out onto the shelves, the teacher's sitting there guiding the lesson for that child. A lesson that the child who's 3 is going to have as opposed to a 5 or a 6-year-old is substantially different.
Right.
The vocabulary is going to be different. The extensions of the basic principle of the work will be different because every child is different. So we need to pivot for each individual learner. And same with geography. We do a lot of geography works and discussions at circle time about the animals in a continent, what you'll find in the biome continent, the biome in the North American continent.
I think Estella has learned
so many of them.
Estella has learned more about Ecuador from school than from us. Like, she came home, she goes, where we're from, Ecuador, that's in South America. And I'm like, yes, you're right, it is in South America. She goes, did you know that was next to Peru, where they have all of these mountains and things? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, oh my gosh, there are so many volcanoes in Ecuador. Did you know that, Mommy? And I was like, yes, I did know that. And then she starts naming all of these animals from Ecuador and then from Africa and then, the peacock, did you know that the girl peacocks don't have the colorful feathers? The male peacocks have the colorful feathers. I like the male peacocks better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. So the way that you guys teach about geography, about math and science, it's done in a way where it's not boring. It's not sitting in front of a book and having a teacher read off of a book. It is with visuals. It is with group activities. It is with actual maps that they have in front of them that they have to put together.
It's all tactile. You learn what the hand does, the mind remembers, which is one of Maria Montessori's famous quotes. And it's true. What you do repetitively with your hands, you just remember it. It's all muscle memory. And that's very much one of the basic tenets of Montessori is a lot of it's just muscle memory.
It's foundational learning. The practical life area, the sensorial area, these are all areas where they're learning how to learn. The age group, specifically the toddler and primary that are our Montessori school, this is their beginning experiences at school. Paper doesn't work for this age group.
No.
Sitting and just listening for long lengths of time just doesn't work for this age group. Things have to be engaging. They have to be interesting to them. And the best way is for them to touch and to feel and to move around. So they learn these skills in these kind of foundational areas, and it absolutely goes over to math and language. They're learning how to sit and focus. If you can't sit in a chair, how are you supposed to write properly? We don't even encourage writing until they're closer to like the end of 4 or 5 years old, because they have so many activities that they need to develop that pincer grip with. They need to develop their wrist dexterity. How are they going to do that? By pouring, by scooping, by tweezing, by peeling a clementine, by slicing an apple. All of these exercises that, again, feel like chores or feel like things that that they shouldn't want to do. They want to do the big works. They want to feel accomplished, and they want to mimic the world around them. They see mom and dad preparing dinner. They see them making the bed and dusting, and they're so capable of being able to do those things. They just need to be given the opportunity and the right tools.
Exactly.
And that lends them into the math and language areas, which are also very important, but once they're ready for them. And there's all these different materials, especially in language, where you can use an object. And, this is a sun. And when they're younger, when they're, 2, 3 years old, that's vocabulary. This is a sun. when they start to learn what sounds make, this is a sun. And then we're going to put the sandpaper letter with it that they can feel that while they're tracing it. And then when they're starting to really understand a bunch of the sounds, then we're going to put them together. What sounds do you hear? A s, a, n. Now we're talking middle sounds, ending sounds. And now let's describe it. Sun is hot. Sun is yellow. And yellow could be, YLOU or something, like it's not the way that it's spelled. Let's just get it phonetically out there. Let's get your capability out there.
That's where phonics comes in.
And now let's research. Now we're talking about the planets. Let's talk about the sun. The sun is 1 billion years old. We are this many miles away from the sun. We're the third planet from the sun. So I just took one little object and I just said what, could be done with it in the span of 4 years.
That's amazing.
So it really is, it's concrete to abstract in math. You just give them all these foundations for this is what we're going to touch, this is what we're going to feel. Now let's keep building and building and building. Kristina and I also have big kids that are Montessori graduates.
Wow.
They went through from toddler through kindergarten, and now Paige is in 7th grade and Charlotte's in 3rd grade. And even now that they're in a public school setting and they are having to do a lot of that rote memorization and, across the board learning, they still have this foundation that they took with them from Montessori. So they're doing math and they can still remember, the beads in their head, the golden beads. I know that a unit looks like this and 1,000 cube looks like this. And I know I can feel the difference. I still remember how that feels. Grown-ups that come in for tours that were Montessori children, like, I remember those. I remember that. 25, 30 years later, like, yep, I remember that material. I remember that material.
What about the dad we met at the Fall Fest who looks at words, reads with the symbols?
Yes. The grammar lessons there's different symbols for a noun, a verb, an adjective. And, once you get into that kindergarten, it's more of a early
elementary,
lower elementary work. But you graph a sentence. You remember graphing a sentence from, 6th grade.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in like kindergarten and 1st grade.
Wow. It's because visually they're able to
us that when he reads and he sees all the symbols on top of
he sees the black triangles on top of the nouns and the red circles on top of the verbs. And
and he was a Montessori lifer. He went all through, I think, high school. He lived in the Caribbean. He lived in the Caribbean and he went to Montessori up until high school. Mm-hmm. So his experience, he was like, wow, Montessori. And he was saying to us, like, yeah, even now as an adult, when I read, I see all the symbols over the words. He's like, I just naturally see that. Mm-hmm. So, and you don't see a whole lot of adults come in as, a Montessori up until high school, because there's just not that many schools in the U.S. that go that high. But it was really exciting for us to talk to this. He wasn't even a dad from our school. He was just some random dad that passed our table at the Fall Fest. And he was like, wow, Montessori, I remember that. So it was, really exciting for him and for us to hear that even as, the guy was probably like in his 50s. He had older kids too. Mm-hmm. So it was really exciting to hear that. But there's also something I want to mention too about the foundation. Auna had mentioned that I have a 7th grader. One of the things I have her do, and I've had her do for years, is make her own appointments for things, which is almost a lost art in this age group, this, middle school age group. These children don't know how to do things. And she's come home and she's like, can you believe they don't how to fold? Or I went to my friend's house and you should see her room. Like it's like
Cece will be in kindergarten in September and she orders her own meals at restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something that was very important to me, that you need to do these things. Mm-hmm. I send her into the grocery store now with my debit card. Here you go. go buy me these things. And for the last couple of years, she's more so now at this older age. It used to be like, okay, here's $10, go pick up our pizza, from the pizza place. But now it's, you want a haircut?
Make your appointment.
Make your appointment. Talk to me about the times. She makes her own doctor's appointments and things like that. Ever since she was little and she's gone to the pediatrician, I step back. She can speak for herself. She can advocate for herself. And I think that's a very important thing that we try and teach young children too, is to use your words. Say, tell us what you need. Also with multi-age learning, a child will come to a teacher asking for help or for a lesson. And the first thing we'll do is, well, why don't you go ask Estella? That's one of her favorite works. I bet she could give you that lesson first. And especially Estella. Estella's a great teacher. She's really come into her own, especially this year.
Giving them that leadership role is just it's something that they just you can't replace it with anything
And you can't
else.
replicate it in other places. You have to be able to take that. And Charlotte, your oldest one, her teachers all but ask her to grade tests at this point.
So she's this year, her third grade teacher, it's her first year teaching. And at the parent teacher conference, the teacher was like, she's been a blessing this year. Like I've been able to just get, it's been hard. Your first year of teaching, you're thrown in. You learn by doing. And she's like, wow, Charlotte has just been such a helper. And she helps in a way that doesn't put anybody else down or make anybody else feel like they can't do it. It's just all encouragement and all positivity. And that's definitely absolutely something she learned from Montessori, especially that kindergarten year, because they learn to just really take ownership of their classroom.
Be role models and leaders. And it's important to teach that so they can continue to learn to be leaders throughout their life. There was something I saw. It was about how the education system was initially founded by Ford, because they needed factory workers. They needed people to all go in and say, everybody's doing the exact same thing. This is, do it. And the U.S. education was founded, the model was founded on factory workers.
Wow. Like
that mentality, the mentality of factory workers, which, the trend, especially in the last 10 years is, parents want something different now. They want something different from their children. They know there's other things out there. There's not just Montessori. There's other philosophies. There's Emilio Reggiano and a couple other different things. But
Waldorf.
the Waldorf, and there's other options out there, and it's not just daycare anymore. Which is a very taboo word anymore, because children learn more from 0 to 5 than they do in any other chunk of their life.
And if you look at the big thinkers of our time, so many of them are Montessori trained. The founders of Google, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Taylor Swift,
Really?
Beyonce.
Stop! No way!
Yeah, the royal family in England. They're both
Harry
princes
and
are
William.
now William's children are Montessori.
Princess Diana worked at a Montessori school.
Yeah.
Which, that just leads to so much of her compassion, too,
Yeah. There's so many famous Montessorians that
is so cool.
when you look into it, you're like, that makes so much sense.
Anne Frank, Julia Child.
Yeah.
So
they were taught to be their own people. And they were taught to, they were guided. Taught isn't even the right word. They were guided. Like, we really do feel that our teachers are guides. And especially at this time of the year, we're winding down the year. There's so many times the teachers are just stepping back and they're just observing. Another great Montessori quote is, the greatest achievement, just to paraphrase, the greatest achievement is to be able to sit back and not be part of the classroom, and to say, they are working as if I am not here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like one of her it's another one of the very famous quotes to say that we're giving them all of this responsibility and all of this capability to be able to run the classroom themselves. And this is, again, this age group. She wasn't talking about middle schoolers, high schoolers. She was talking about her Casa de Bambini, her little guys.
How did you come about being the directors of Diamond Hill Montessori School?
It's been a journey that I don't think either of us really knew were going to land us here. So, that's the fun thing about life is it starts in one place and ends up in another. Mine was a little bit more of a straightforward path. I went to school for education. I always knew I wanted to do something in the early childhood field. Going into college, I had a internship. I had did a little bit of student teaching, observations, all of that. So I always knew that I wanted to work with children. When I graduated, I moved to New Jersey my mother had previously moved here, so I moved back with her, and I needed a job. So I looked I looked on Craigslist and I looked on the paper because that's how long ago this was.
Wow.
And I found an assistant job at a Montessori school.
Wow.
So I worked there for a couple years and then wanted to go get my certification. So I went through that process. And then a couple years later, I came to Diamond Hill as a teacher. I always say, I really did grow at Diamond Hill because I came there with, I had just moved in with my boyfriend at the time, and now he's my husband and we have 3 kids.
That's amazing. So your story started at Montessori school, the same one that you now are directors of.
I worked at a different one.
Oh,
I worked
okay.
at a different one at first. But I started as a teacher, and then a couple years later became a Montessori parent.
Wow.
And then now a Montessori director. So myself and Kristina both share that experience where we really come from all sides of it. So it's easy for us to see all perspectives, I think.
That's so amazing. And that's what makes that special now that you're directors. You guys have that connection with the parents because you know what they're going through when they come into this new school, new method. Some of them don't even know what the method is like. I was one of those people. I kind of went into it a little bit blindly, and I'm kind of glad I did because I learned everything there is to know about Montessori school through you guys and watching Estella be at this school and just thrive and be so independent. And it's been such a joy to see that for myself at the school and being able to be part of the community and hear from other parents who've been there longer than me that this is such a special program and a special school and with special people,
Yeah.
Kristina, what about you? What is your background like?
So I actually have I ended up in Montessori in a very interesting path. I have a degree in business and marketing. So my whole background was a lot of project management and operations. I had my daughter, and when I was pregnant with her, my husband happened to have a guy that he worked with whose wife was a Montessori teacher. And it's one of our favorite stories in our house. And he said to me, he's like, oh, we should really think about doing Montessori for our daughter. And I looked it up and it's like, gotta be honest, it seems a little crunchy for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, and at the time where we lived, there wasn't a lot of Montessori schools. And then when we moved to New Jersey, we ended up at a Montessori school. We moved very close to the end of the school year. So pretty much all the schools around us were already on wait lists. So Montessori was the only place that had an opening, and she just thrived there. She did so awesome. And then the owner of the school at the time had said, I have a position open, a short-term position. Do you have any interest? And I ended up as an assistant in the classroom. And Then went on to take my assistance certification at the Princeton Montessori School, and was invited back for the next school year, and it's been amazing ever since. Anna and I were in the classroom together. I was her assistant.
Oh,
And
wow.
you know, it's very much a village. We're also neighbors.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we have a group text called Family Not Family. So our kids are in it. It's very awesome.
And that 100% shows at your school that the two of you have this sisterhood, and you guys kind of just bring everybody together into this family that you guys build.
Yeah.
It's a school, it's academic, but it's also just this, like you said, a village. And that's so important. And many times, a lot of schools don't have that. Yeah. And a lot of the times, you don't realize it until your kid is in the school. That's something that happened with me and Estella in her first two schools. How are you guys able to kind of show that before we have parents enroll their kids in the school?
Well, it's funny you should say that. A lot of times when a new family is coming in for a tour, sometimes Anna's still getting her children into their classrooms.
Oh my goodness.
So you know, I always preface it by saying, you know, Mrs. Conrad will be right down. She's getting her children into their classrooms, and, you know, a lot of times it very organically comes up that we are very much a village.
And it really does resonate with parents, especially moms. When we see you guys, we know that you have kids. We see your kids at the school all the time. We know them. My daughter, Stella, loves Cece. Yeah. And so it's so amazing and such a relief to know that you're being seen, that these women, you two women, are mothers, you're business women, you're educators, but more than anything, you have this huge heart that all you want is for every kid that walks through that door to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted, to be loved and supported, regardless of their background, regardless of where they came from before this school. Little bit about inclusivity. We talked about that before. I want to know, how is that part of the Montessori philosophy? How did you guys kind of nurture that into your school?
Yeah, for sure. I really like to say, and I did borrow it from our founding director, that Montessori is for every child. The reasons why is, you know, how we've talked about how there's an individualized learning plan that is just specialized and catered to every child. And then it also, as far as being inclusive, helps. We want all of this cultural diversity not just to be recognized, but also celebrated. And that could be physical differences, cultural differences, learning differences. They, at the age that, you know, that 2 to 6 age, there's no judging, there's no judgment, there's just learning. And when you bring it from that approach to how cool is it to learn about something different than you, how could that not be fun to learn about different holidays and different traditions? My family is Catholic. One of my really good friends is Jewish. We have, if you asked my children, they celebrate Hanukkah because we go to Hanukkah every year. We've done Hanukkah in school, you know, since they've all been little. We go to Passover, like we say the prayers, you know, all of these things, you know, and that's a model that we really want to reflect in the school too. We love, love, love when parents come in and share about their cultures, traditions, backgrounds.
I love that about your school. I love that about your school. Like, Estella comes home so excited and she goes, oh, so-and-so's mommy came in and she taught us about this. Oh, Stephanie came in and taught us about Hanukkah. And then she has the song stuck in her head for like months and months.
Yeah.
Hanukkah, oh, Hanukkah, light the menorah. She still to this day sings it. And she wants to know more and more. And she goes, wait, it's Passover. Tell me a little bit more of Passover, because Judah is celebrating Passover, but I want to know what it is. So it's just incredible. Like, yeah. Or I have Stephanie come on over and like, let's come and tell Stephanie what it's like. But like, to have those different backgrounds and cultures and traditions be taught at the schools.
We have parents that come in and do Lunar New Year, Diwali, Holi.
Amazing.
Last year we had Persian New Year, which was a new one for me. I'd never heard of it. It is so cool. There is a goldfish. Like,
Wow.
Because it's about new life and new birth. And, you know, they gave every child a little, a pussy willow branch, you know, because that's sort of learning. It goes with the spring equinox. And we never stop learning.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And like every parent that comes in that talks about different traditions, we had someone talk about in the beginning of the year, the natives from the Dominican Republic. We had a grandma come in a couple years ago and talk about Italy, and she made the red, white, and green sauces for that represent the flag. So they had a taste test of pasta.
That's amazing.
We had a dad come in and talk about Russia, and he was so into it. He had 30 minutes of content, and the kids were. And then we just found yesterday, we were going through some things. There was a dad who talked about numbers. He came in and talked about numbers that are really, really small and really, really big.
Like a quantum kid.
Oh, yes. When
Something.
she came home and she was like, Mommy, do you know what the biggest number in the world is? And I'm like, what is it? And she goes, Google. Googleplex. And I was like, how do you know this?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So anytime that parents want to share, we're like, yes, please come in. We have the farmer come in with the chicks. We have the fire truck come. You know, we love visitors that are going to just give a new representation. Our staff is very cultural diverse, but there's never enough of it. There's never enough diversity. You can always learn something new. And again, at that age group, they're getting information.
So important. You're teaching kids to be compassionate and respectful towards others.
And celebrate differences.
And celebrate differences and have them feel this like community of and equality, you know, having them feel like, yes, they're all different, but they're all celebrating, they're all teaching together. And it's just so amazing. I love love this about your school. When Estella would come home and tell me this person came, I learned this. It is just so important, because that's what the real world is. The real world is diverse, from people from all different kinds of lives, from all different shades. And it's important to teach them this at a young age so that they can grow up to be compassionate, gentle, respectful human beings, and not have to expect that from them because it's what society expects them to be, you know? It's because they want to be. And that is a huge thing we talked about with Stephanie about choice and how kids need to have also the choice to be who they want to be, what they want to be, how they want to be. And you guys are giving them that freedom to be who they want to be and to love what they want to love. And that's so, so important.
Yeah, and encouragement. Not only do we want to give you all, you know, the options, we also want you to follow your path. Yeah. There's certain children that is the way that they are. We never want to stifle it. I have 2 girls, and I say I'm raising 2 strong, independent women. I also have to deal with 2 strong and independent women.
Oh my goodness. And I know it's hard now.
Yeah, but you're doing the work. You're putting the work.
Yes, and you know. Oh my gosh. And I know like that the same thing. Like for me, it's like the Stella, it's like, oh God, I know it's hard because she has her opinions and she's not afraid to talk to people. It doesn't matter if it's somebody 3 times her age. She will go up to an adult and
she
talk
greets
to an
our
adult.
tours almost every time. She's usually the first one to say, "Hi, how are you?"
And it's a confidence.
I have a baby brother.
it's a confidence that maybe a lot of people may think, oh, you can't teach that. Yes, you can. You can most certainly teach that confidence and that that security in oneself. Like she's not insecure about talking to adults no matter how old they are because she doesn't see them as people who are smarter than her, who are bigger than her. You know,
They're not smarter than her.
Yeah, she sees everybody as equal, and that is so important for kids' self-esteems. And that is something that regular schools don't teach. Nobody sits a kid down and teaches them about self-esteem, confidence, you know, being able to speak out and say what they want to say and ask the questions. That's a big thing. Estella asks questions all day, every day, and I don't know the answers to those questions. They're big questions. Like, where does dirt come from? Why do leaves fall during the fall? But it gives me the opportunity to also be her teacher and look things up. We are so lucky that we have Google and Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Because like, what did our parents do back in the day?
Well, we still actually, in the classroom, we don't use technology. If we need to go look it up, we go to these books and then maybe it's not in this book. Maybe we need to look at another book. That's a skill. It's a skill to look in the glossary. It's a skill to look through the alphabetical order of things. That's something that it's becoming
Find
a
the
lost
resources.
art.
These are the resources you have. This is how you're going to find the answer to it. And it's okay to ask these questions. And I always tell Estella, there is no such thing as a dumb question. All questions deserve to be answered and deserve to be heard from kids, no matter what age. And like, I love that she has the confidence to ask, because once she's in public school next year, I know that there will be some rules of her, you know, not being able to have this kind of freedom. But at least she'll know that at home, she has the freedom to do that. And also to find out the answers for herself, if not at school, outside of school, at the library, or on her iPad. So it's kind of just opening up this world of resources for kids and letting them know that, you know, there's going to be moments where you're not going to get the answers right away, or you won't be able to ask those questions. But it doesn't mean that you can't find them out yourself somewhere else.
And that's growth too. Their self-control is growth. Really, you know, building that focus and concentration for them to be able to remember that they want to ask that question, to wait until someone's done talking. Those are all still skills that are important. And, you know, we're also learning that like, we celebrate growth in all forms. We celebrate it in the ones that the children that have a hard time saying goodbye to their parents at the door by the end of the year, they're waving. Maybe they still need that like 5-second, like, okay, all right, now I'm going to do my work. And then there's, you know, other children, we celebrate the ones that they finally raise their hand at circle instead of, you know, like blurt out. It's all about learning and growing in all aspects, and every child learns and grows differently and has different areas of where they excel. Every child has areas where they excel, and every child has areas that they need to work on. Every person has areas where they excel and has areas that they need to work on.
What should parents look for when they're researching schools for the little ones for this age, between 2 to 5 years old? And what can they look for when they come to Diamond Hill Montessori School, when they come for a tour?
So I think it's very important for them to check out all different types of schools as well, not just Montessori. While we feel Montessori is for everybody, not maybe not all families feel that way. You definitely should look at a traditional school and a Montessori school. And if you're really set on Montessori, don't look at just one. It's very important to see what other Montessori schools look like. We're very much an authentic Montessori school. So when you come into our school, you see all the children busy at work doing their works. You don't see a lot of children all doing the same thing. You don't see a lot of paper. You don't see a lot of hand raising. You just don't see that. When you come into our school, you see happy children doing their work. And that's one of the things that when we do give tours, we always ask the families, it's really important to us that you come in during the work cycle. So you actually see what your child, a day in their life would look like at our school. We want you to see not just one classroom, even if you're not looking at a toddler classroom. We love when they pop in and they get to see even what our little friends are doing in the smaller aged groups. It's important that you see the teachers engaged with the children, engaged in the lesson that maybe they're giving one individual child or how they're interacting with other children in the classroom while they're giving a lesson. In our school, you'll very much see a teacher with hands on her. When a child wants a teacher's attention and the teacher's busy, a child will come and just put their hand on the shoulder and they'll just stand there and wait.
Wait, that was on an episode of Bluey.
Was it?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
We made it to Bluey.
Oh my God. No, seriously. That is an episode of Bluey when Bluey is trying to get the dad's attention and he's like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And he goes, listen, when you want my attention, why don't you just put your hand on my shoulder and then I'll know that that's what you want? And that's so amazing.
My 7th grader still does that with me. If I'm on the phone and she's hopping around like she needs something and she knows I'll just ignore that behavior.
Yeah.
And then finally she'll just come up and be like,
oh, I thought that's where Stella got it from. I thought she got it from Bluey, but now I get
nope,
it.
that's us.
So funny.
But, you see that. And a teacher will gently put her hand on top of the child's hand. Like, I see you. I'm acknowledging you, but I'm not done with this person. And then they still may be like hopping around because they could be excited to show them the teacher something, or they have a question that they're really excited to share or ask, or so you see that.
There's the self-control and the patience.
And the self-control.
But showing them in a way that is compassionate.
Yes.
It's not in a...
I see you.
Exactly.
And I'll be right with you.
And validating their existence, you know, not just, telling them, go sit down.
I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even if they yell across the room, sometimes I just tap my shoulder. Like, I'm not going to yell back, but they know what to do.
Wow.
They know.
That's amazing.
Even teachers do that in our classroom. There's plenty of times where teachers will be talking to a child and another teacher wants to speak to the teacher, and the teacher will do the same thing because we are modeling the behavior that
practicing what you preach.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Grace and courtesy.
Wow.
It's all about grace and courtesy. Absolutely. So it's important that when you come into our school, these are the things that you see. And really, if you're going to other schools, you should see that same type of grace and courtesy between the teachers, the students, and the students having it together. I've seen children do that to other kids in the classroom, put a hand on another child's shoulder, and you're like,
right. And you don't have to be at a Montessori school to understand that, to understand that respect and that compassion, that validation. Like, yes, I see you, but just give me a moment.
It's such common sense.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Another thing also about the parent communities. When you're researching schools, ask, what's your parent community like? When we first took over the school, we had a parent who brought her child to our school, and she was really excited. She's like, oh, I want to I want to start a parent community. And we were like, wow, in all the years that we've been here, there was never really a parent community when we were here as teachers. So it was very important that when that one parent said that, we were like, oh, yes. So that year we had an evening, a parent social at a local restaurant. And, it was really great to get everybody else's feedback, what they were looking for also. And really that's kind of what started our parent community, of which you are a big part of now.
I love being part of it.
And we love it. We love that there is, a core group of parents who are out there getting everybody else on board with things, which is wonderful.
It's not static. We're growing and evolving every year. The needs of parents are growing and evolving every year. So it's consistently changing. It's always going to be growing. You're never done growing and learning throughout your entire life. There's always things that can be improved on. And continuing with parent communication, we also don't take every idea from every parent. We can't. That would be, it would
a lot of work.
It would also just conflict with each other. You
Yeah,
can't make
that's
everybody
true.
happy all the time. But the important thing is that you feel heard at your school. And that if it's something that you don't agree with, even that it's at least explained to you. This is why our policy is this way. This is why we're going to do that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We will review it. So that's a big thing that we insist on, is that
Open communication between...
and comfort. Especially this age group, this is one of the first times that you're leaving your children with anybody besides yourselves. Parents are their children's first teachers. So now you're just growing the community of teachers. And we really want we want families to feel like it's a village, that it really does take a village, and that we are also invested in your child's well-being. It's a holistic experience. It's very much not just about reading and writing. It's about their emotions. It's about their behavior. It's about, how they feel, even spiritually. It's very much a very balanced approach to education, because when you don't have that security and comfort, learning can't take place, because it's a basic need that needs to be filled before the hierarchy gets
and
up.
you'll feel that when you come take a tour at your school, because the environment in there is so peaceful. You walk in and you have this, yes, everybody's doing their own thing, but it's like it flows. There's like a flow of just peaceful energy going around, and you have the meditation sounds going on in the background, and kids are, talking with each other. They're doing things together. If they need help, the teachers are always walking around, going from kid to kid. It's just an amazing flow. And this is the kind of environment that you want them to find anywhere they are in life, whether it's at school, whether it's at home, whether it's at an extracurricular activity, somebody else's house. Find that peace, and you teach them that the peace is within them, that they carry it with them, that they don't need teachers or the environment to kind of mold into this Montessori environment. They have it within them to be able to bring that peace wherever they go.
We talk about how we all have a love light inside of us, and it shines so brightly. We can see it shine so brightly when they're doing things that make them feel proud and accomplished. And when their love light is bright, it brightens everyone else's love light around them.
Love that.
We even just go into the cosmic nature of it all, how what we are made up inside of us, our energy, what an atom looks very much like a galaxy. So we are literally made up of the galaxy. We are part of the universe, and the universe is part of us. And just showing them that they have such an important place in the world.
Auna, Kristina, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you've come here and you talked with me about Montessori method, about your school, your community that you guys have built. Please tell me, Kristina, is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners? Where can they find Montessori, your Montessori school, learn more about Montessori?
Sure. So we would recommend, if you want more information about Montessori schools in general, to definitely go to the American Montessori Society's website. They have a whole directory of member schools, and that would be a great place to start. Their website has many great tools, not just the directory, but it does give you parents a lot of information of what Montessori is and really also what to look for. There's a lot of Montessoris out there. Montessori is not a trademark. It is a philosophy of learning. So every Montessori school is a little bit different. But absolutely start with the AMS website. If you want more information about Diamond Hill Montessori, you can find us at diamondhillmontessori.com. We absolutely love to share the Montessori method with everybody. So we would very much appreciate if anybody had questions for us, they could reach out directly to us as well.
And where are you guys located?
We are located in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey.
Guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
I can't
for
wait
having us.
to have you back for another episode, I hope.
Yeah.
Please, guys, check out Diamond Hill Montessori School in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. Bye.
Thank you.
Welcome to a place where learning is an adventure, where children's curiosity is nurtured, and where the magic of Montessori comes to life. Welcome to Diamond Hill Montessori School. Step inside our classrooms and witness the joy of discovery. The Montessori method embraces the unique potential in every child, allowing them to learn and grow at their own pace. Our passionate and dedicated Montessori-trained teachers are the heart of our school. They provide personalized guidance, fostering independence and self-motivation, and instilling a love for learning that lasts a lifetime. Community is at the core of Montessori. Here, children learn not only from their teachers, but also from each other, fostering a sense of empathy, teamwork, and respect for others. Our beautiful outdoor spaces allow children to connect with nature, igniting their curiosity and promoting a deep appreciation for our planet. At Diamond Hill Montessori, creativity flourishes. Through arts, music, and a variety of enrichments, children express themselves, developing confidence and unlocking their limitless potential. Practical life skills are an integral part of the Montessori curriculum. Yes, children develop independence, concentration, and fine motor skills as they engage in activities like pouring, dressing, and caring for their environment. Circle time is a special moment where stories come alive, minds are inspired, and friendships are formed. In these shared experiences, children learn valuable social and emotional skills. Through uninterrupted and purposeful play, children develop their imaginations, gross motor skills, and problem-solving abilities. Our school is more than just a place to learn. It's a supportive community that embraces diversity and inclusion of all backgrounds. Families and teachers work together to create a foundation for your child's future success. Now, join us at Diamond Hill Montessori School, where a rich and stimulating environment helps your child learn and grow, where lifelong friendships are made, and where children embark on a transformative journey of discovery.